Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, welcome everyone once again. We are almost on the conclusion episode or conclusive episodes of Bhagavad Gita. We're doing a series titled as Gita Unplugged, and we're going to start with the 16th chapter. How many of you were aware, how many of you were present for the 15th chapter, which we had last week? Can you have a raise of hand? How many of you were aware for that? Just keep your hands up. Let me just take a look around. All right, all right. So majority of you, except for some of you, probably were traveling during the summer break. So 16th chapter is going to introduce us to a very interesting concept, which pertains to the nature of this world. How many of you are from outside of Pune? Raise your hand, please. You're not born and brought up here. How many of you? Most of you, right? If in case you're from Maharashtra, it's still okay. But imagine if you are from Maharashtra, from North India, and you have to either go for your higher studies or for your job to South, somewhere in, let's say, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, etc. How many of you say that before you go there, you like to find out about the lifestyle, the culture, the food habits, the kinds of people, are they cooperative, whatnot? If not you, your parents will definitely would like to figure it out where you're going, what kind of people, what kind of environment. Yes or no? We want to know what kind of people we're going to live with, what are the rules, regulations, etc. Now, we all have crash landed. Crash landed, the word I used for your birthday, which is a very auspicious day, but in one way it's a crash landing because nobody chose that crash landing day, and we appeared out of a blue. And we appeared here, none of us have any clue about it, what we are doing here, and what is this place all about, you know? So we're just going through with it, and it's like our life is almost like every day is a surprise. I would call not surprise, every day of shock. That's a more precise word. Surprise would be a little bit in a goodness, but factuality is like a shock, everyday shock. So Bhagavad Gita, Lord Shri Krishna introduces us to a very important subject matter about the nature of this world where we're living in, about its nature, about its characteristics. In 8th chapter, verse number 15, Mam upetya punarjanma. How many of you have Bhagavad Gita? Go to 8th chapter, verse number 15. If you have a copy of Bhagavad Gita, if you don't, that's all right. You can pay attention. Mam upetya punarjanma dukhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanam samsiddhi paramam gataha. In other words, Krishna says, Mam upetya punarjanma, who attains to my situation, punarjanma, he does not have to take birth again. Where? Dukhalayam ashashvatam. So very first thing that Krishna defines about this wonderful place where none of us want to leave. We want to live as long as possible, continue to be in anxiety, stress, doesn't matter, but nobody wants to die. It's been identified by Krishna as a place called as Dukh Alyam Ashashvatam. Have I said about my experience of when I was studying at Ohio State University, and I went and attended a first birthday party of a Hare Krishna devotee? Have I said that? Oh, really? So maybe let me tell you now how I was shocked in a good way. So, we all know birthday parties, how we celebrate and all that. So this was a birthday party of one Hare Krishna devotee who was a young man like me in America. He was from Bombay, had come to study in the same university like I, Ohio State University. And it was his birthday, and he called me also. I said, all right, I'll go for birthday. Now, a college-going boy, when you call for a birthday, you have a particular mindset. What, birthday, a birthday party, etc. You don't expect in a boy's birthday party a whole family sitting together and doing whatnot. So I entered there. The whole environment was altogether different. It was very now I can say a very goodness kind of an environment. All many families were there. They all sat together. There were no birthday bashing. There was no kicks, no punches. And I was wondering what kind of birthday party is this? This is not auspicious. This is not auspicious unless you get a kick on your birthday. And then it was a cake time. So what happened? They all sat. and we had a birthday boy in center, and everyone began to talk about how wonderful this boy is. I was like, wow, that's interesting. Birthday party could be interesting also. Every single member who was assembled there in the room, everyone spoke about how wonderfully he contributes in services, his all wonderful qualities like that. Although I knew him for the last almost 8, 9 months, I never knew even a single good quality in him, which I understood that day. you know, it takes one to know one. I wasn't good myself, but and after all that happened, now the cake cutting time came, and I was waiting. Arey, koi to laat marega. And my legs were becoming restless. When would I get the opportunity? Make them free. Anyways, long story short, I'm just joking about it. Finally, the cake cutting time came. You have your birthday songs, whatever you call it, a little more or less influenced by the Christian understanding of the birthday, how do we celebrate. And then they began to sing something else. Hare Krishna to you. And I was thinking, यार इनको कुछ काम नहीं, हर जगह हरे कृष्णा डाल देते हैं. Happy birthday बोलो, Hare Krishna to you. And I was like, अरे happy birthday, Hare Krishna to you, Hare Krishna, dear Prabhu. All right, tolerated. Now what they said next, I really felt like disappearing from that place. I said, hey, this is very dangerous people, huh? What kind of prayer they're saying? You know what did they say next? May you never take birth again. May you never take birth again. May you never take birth again. Hare Krishna to you. मैं कहो ए कहाँ भेज रहे हो इसको? I mean, see, in what culture we have grown up. I'm going to speak tomorrow afternoon as well as tomorrow evening. We have man, woman, psychology, family issues, and Krishna conscious family life. We'll talk more about it there. But what kind of environment we have grown up? We have grown up in a very atheistic environment. I'll speak about it in today's presentation also. We have been taught that life exists only on this planet. We have been taught from our childhood through our education system, there is only one life. This is a lot to do with Abrahamic tradition, where they believe there is only one life. And when they said, may you never take birth again, I was thinking, where else can he take birth again? Where would he go? May you never take birth again. I was so frightened and so kind of amazed that I thought I should, leave these people. This looks like some cult or something. They're destroying your life. Because I was so attached to the concept that life exists only on this earth. And even if I have to believe in reincarnation, I reincarnate where? Only on planet Earth. I was so attached to a place which Krishna calls at Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. Can there be any greater fool than I am? I am attached to a place of suffering. And then Krishna says, Arjuna, this is nothing but a place of suffering. Now, how do you say it's a place of suffering? Well, is exactly what they're good in this world. Look at it. Krishna says there are three kind of kaleshas. Now, when Bhagavad Gita has been spoken, there was no concept of Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Jainism, you name anything, Sikhism. They're just very recent civilization or very recent religion. Culture or civilization before was known as Sanatan Dharma, which we loosely today call as Hindu. So fine, no problem about it. But it was called as Sanatan Dharma. And there, Krishna and Bhagavad Gita talks about certain universal facts. Agree or disagree? Respond to me with raising of hand if you agree with not. Krishna says every living entity, regardless if you're a human, you're an animal, bird, beast, whatever species of life, have to go through three tapa, sufferings, kleshas. Adhi bhautika, because of other living entities. Mosquito bites, friends, family members, enemies. How many of you say 100% holds true for every living entity, every species, not a human species, all the species? Yes or no? All right. Then Krishna says, Adi Atmika, because of one's own mind, full of stress and anxiety. Does it hold true for everyone? Yes or no? Raise your hand. Everyone, regardless you're born in whichever religion, whichever background. All right. And then Krishna says, Adi Daivika. Just like in the last few days, it has been pretty hot and humid. And, we begin to feel restless about it. So we get affected by the weather conditions. Sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's hot. It's a tapa, it's a suffering. Do we agree? Not only these are the suffering, these are constantly haunting us. Apart from that, there are four other sufferings which are also common. Nobody wants it and nobody can avoid it. This is actual meaning of CNN. Common to all, nobody wants it, and nobody can avoid it. Acronym for you to remember these concepts. The four other sufferings that we all undergo in this creation is birth. We celebrate birth, but every child, including you and I, were born with cry. And if we did not cry, then the doctors cried. Something is wrong with the child, yes or no? And then the doctor has to slap you to make you cry. Welcome to material creation. So you enter. Now, if it is such a fantastic place, should you enter that place with a great smile on your face, or should you enter that place with tears? If you're entering some place with tears, with howl, with cry, what does it indicate? It's a horror movie. Yes or no? I don't know. You know, Delhi, there used to be an Appu Ghar. It's been long. Just while making this example strike to me, when we were young boys, teenagers, we used to go to this Appu Ghar, and there used to be one horror show. There would be a train. You sit in that train, and then it goes inside that bungalow kind of house, and it will be all dark, and all that horror music would be playing, and suddenly, sometime from top, sometime from side, some ghost will jump on you. And by the time you come out, you are completely trembling, you're crying, you're screaming. How many of you had that experience in your childhood? Well, at least I've attended it, right? Now I can tell you this is what the life in this world is. Trembling, frightened, crying and whatnot. It takes little intelligence to understand the truth of life. Little intelligence. You don't have to be really more too much intelligent to it. So, like this birth, then growth, how much we struggle while growing up. While we were growing up, what a great hopes were given. Beta bus 12th pass kar le. Balle, balle. How many of you remember your parents giving you that promise? Bus 10th and 12th, just study for 10th and 12th. Life will be sweet like honey. And how many of you remember once you graduated from 12th? Oh my goodness, what a stress you had for competitive exams. How much stress you had. Yes or no? Then you somehow survived that stress. Then parents said, Beta, no problem. One final exam. Go through the engineering. After that, balle, balle. You will get your dream job. This world is very good in giving us dreams, which hardly gets fulfilled. Then somehow we struggle through engineering, and then we struggle to find a job. And after getting a job, then we look back and think, क्या करा जीवन भर क्यों पढ़ाई करी थी जब यहाँ पर भी आके ट्रेनिंग देनी थी उनको. And you undergo constant training. How many of you are looking for a job change? Raise your hand. I've got some job offers for you. Quickly. Raise your hands. How many of you are looking for a job change? Sharma mat yaar, 100% hoga. I mean, you're looking for job change, just an indication you're not happy over there. And then you survive through this reality, then they say, Beta, one thing is missing in your life, why you're not happy, I'll tell you. And mother will come and tell you in your ear. That secret's told by mother only particularly, yes? Beta, shadi kar le. बस जो सुख की तू तलाश कर रहा था अब पक्का ही मिलेगा. आई रिमेंबर व्हेन माय मदर टोल्ड मी, आई सर इतने सालों से कह रहे हो, हर बार धोखा ही मिला है. 12th पास कर ले, 10th get good marks, life will be easy. Then 12th get good marks, life will be easy. Then graduate from engineering, good marks, life will be easy. Life had never been easy. Anyways, growth. And then disease. I don't want to go into much elaboration. We have discussed in the past. And then disease is a suffering. Is there anyone in this world who will not get diseased? Or any disease comes because you belong to a particular religion? It doesn't happen like that. And eventually death. They say as sure as death. Yes or no? Nobody can avoid it. So 4 plus 3, there's 7 kinds of suffering every living entity undergoes. Therefore, Krishna says, Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. Well, this is only an explanation of Dukhalayam. Ashashvatam is different. Ashashvat, which means temporary. Everything in this world, what we have, is temporary. And of that, the foremost, which is temporary, is this divine body to which we love a lot. We spend all our energy caring for this body, which is beyond your control, is growing old, becoming sickly, and you cannot do anything about it. Yes or no? And Krishna says this is Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. So when I understand this Dukhalayam Ashashvatam, Then I understood, yes, may you never take birth again. This is the right prayer. May you never take birth again. What will you do taking birth again? So, anyways, there was a concept which was discussed in the 8th chapter. Mam upetya mam upetya tukanteya dukhalayam ashashvatam. That's the first explanation about the nature of this world. Then, um, after this, in the same, then in the 15th chapter, 16th chapter, 15th chapter, then Krishna talks about the nature of material world versus spiritual world. That was the subject matter we discussed last time. Na tad bhasate suryo, na shashankana bhavaka, yad gatvan invartante tad dhama param mama. Krishna says, my abode is the highest. After attaining that, you never come back to this place of suffering. And that place does not depend on anything. It is self-illumined. And it's a place of Sat, Chit, Ananda. Like that, in 15th chapter, we discussed about the material world and spiritual world, where Krishna gave an analogy of a banyan tree. This material world is nothing but a reflection of the original tree. And I gave an example. Where do you see a tree which has its branches, roots upward and branches downwards? It is only possible when you see the reflection of a tree in a river. So, in a reflection, only you will find a tree upside down. Imagine if you're looking at the reflected tree, a mango tree, and if you want to pluck a mango from the reflection, can you ever get a mango? What do you get? Frustration. Therefore, whatever efforts we put in our life, how much ever in whatever capacity, unfortunately ends with one thing only, because it's temporary, and thus it meets with frustration. So that was a discussion. So the nature, temporary nature, the explanation of spiritual world have been talked, and now in 16th chapter, Lord Shri Krishna is going to talk about the living entities of this creation. So nature and characteristic of this world have been explained. Now the characteristic of the people in this world have been described. And Krishna says there are two kind of living entities who are born in this world. There are only two categories, Daivi and Asura. Daivi, which means divine, they are born with divine qualities, which Krishna describes in text number 1 to 3. And then thereafter, Krishna talks about demoniac qualities. Lord Shri Krishna doesn't focus much on explanation of divine or the holy qualities, but he spends time explaining about the demonic qualities, just because it's definitely a very important subject matter. Whenever a teacher emphasizes on a subject matter, it means it's of great relevance to us. Demonic quality, divine qualities, Krishna already spoke on the 12th chapter. How do you cultivate that? It happens through practice of devotional principles, bhakti yoga. Just by taking to bhakti, just by chanting every day, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, an individual develops divine qualities, his demonic nature subsides. So in Satya Yuga, as we know, our time cycle is divided into 4 yugas: Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali Yuga. In Satya Yuga, these divine and demonic living entities were living on different planets. They were not on the same planet. Then you talk about Treta Yuga, then they both came on the same planet, like Ravana in Sri Lanka and Ayodhya up in north, that is Lord Ram. They were living on the same planet. Then came Dwapar Yuga, where the divine and demonic were living within the same family. Kauravas versus Pandavas, demoniac versus divine. And then came Kali Yuga. Now, where do you think divine and demonic resides? Is within the same person. And how many of you agree? In today's world, the proportion of demonic nature is far greater than the divinity. And therefore, Krishna speaks more or spends more time on describing about the nature of demonic quality so we can improve ourselves. So let's begin with a quick discussion. Um, what would you call as to be a divine or demoniac? Quick inputs. What quality, what nature, according to you, can be categorized as a divine or demoniac? Any quick thoughts? Yes. Okay, helping nature, compassionate, that's divine. Very nice. Goodness, all right. Thank you. What else? Okay, not having sympathy for others. So, opposite of compassion, hatred, you can say. Having hatred for the living entities or self centered, selfishness, hard hearted, that becomes demonic. Yes, what else? Anger, impatience. Well, anger has its own advantage and disadvantage. Where anger is out of control and anger is utilized for selfish interest, then it becomes demoniac. If anger is utilized in the service of others, then it is good, like Hanumanji, Arjuna, etc. So anger in itself is not wrong, but yes, thank you. What else? Quick, quick, quick. I'm not asking a PhD question. Is it not something you have to really scratch your head? Oh, divine and demoniac? Kabhi suna nahi. Yes. One word answer. Okay, divine bhakti. Greed, jealousy, envy, harshness, hatred. What else? What else? What else? Huh? Empathy, sympathy. All right. That's it. Right actions for right cause, which is true. But who defines right cause, right action, and right cause? Because everyone thinks what I do is right, and my cause is also right. Duryodhana was convinced about it. So, what is the basis of our knowledge? Action is good, answer is good. What is the basis? Because then it will define divine or demoniac. What is the basis of a knowledge? So, which means which is based on dharma. And dharma, where is dharma defined? Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. This is spoken by, does anyone know who spoke this words? This is spoken by Yamaraj, the one who ensures, who gives the punishment or reward. He says, who established dharma? Only established by the Supreme Lord. And where is dharma established? In the Vedic scriptures. In other words, who lives his life according to Vedic sciences, Vedic scriptures, which defines dharma, that leads to right action for the right cause. If that knowledge itself is not there, then to say our actions are right or wrong is very difficult. Anything else? Let's He's an atheist, all right. Obeys God's laws. Nobody ever said like this, huh? The one who obeys God's laws will be said to be a holy person, isn't it? So it looks like God doesn't exist only. Everything came, sympathy, empathy, compathy, whatnot. Said everything in terms at our level, but we just could not recognize the presence. I even gave you a hint. Dharmam tu saksha bhagavat pranitam. It's very important. Do you see how much we are connected with the reality? We don't have a kind of the connection that there's something that we need to follow by the God's instruction. Therefore, I said Vedic sciences, okay? Obeys God's laws. Selfless service to God and His children, to me, all living entities. Whatever I possess is a gift of God. I am grateful. Everything I possess is earned by my own abilities, skill, and hard work. This is all the statements from Bhagavad Gita. Huh? This is not something I'm making up here. Think before acting. This is more of goodness action. Just do it. Who will care for the results? I follow advice. Guru Sadhu Shastra, 17th chapter, will give you the evidence what Krishna says. I do what I like. I don't care for anyone. No one can control me. While going through this, a little bit of, I'll be quick on this subject matter now. You can have two characters in your mind, if in case you know of Mahabharata. One is Arjuna, and second is Duryodhana. When we talk of divine, have Arjuna, and you'll see all the things, becomes very easy. When you talk about demoniac, if you know the character of Duryodhana, think about Duryodhana, and you will understand what it means to be demonic like that. For example, I follow advice of Guru Sadhu Shastra. Krishna said at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, whatever I had to tell you, I've told you. Do whatever you want to do. What did Arjuna say? My dear Lord, I shall do what you have asked me to do. You asked me to pick up my weapon and fight, I will fight. I follow advice of Guru Sadhu Shastra. Yes? In case of Duryodhana, Krishna, if in case you were there for our annual cultural event, how many of you were there for annual events? Raise your hand. As some voices. We had a whole performance on Mahabharata, and that was a theme. Krishna personally went to Kauravas and he requested Kauravas, if you can't return the kingdom, at least give the 5 villages. Duryodhan, do not get into violence. It's not going to bring good to anyone. Let's work with your brothers. Let brothers and brothers unite rather than fight with each other. This was the advice of Krishna to Duryodhan. And what did Duryodhan do in return? I do what I like. I don't care for anyone. No one can control me. And therefore, he attempted to arrest Krishna. Yes. So, as I said, what you say, my actions are right or my cause is right, it depends on what is your reference. Okay. Next, eternal life of bliss, knowledge, and service to God is my goal. Immediate pleasures are my goal. We'll take elaboration on it. So, it's a short chapter with 24 verses. We have an acronym called as DOG, Divine or Demoniac, and let's take a look at it. So, Lord Shri Krishna in first three verses, we have a cordless mic, another cordless. Anyone have got a copy of Bhagavad Gita here? So, because I don't have the verses here, you can read the translation. So, in text number 1 to 3 of 16th chapter, Lord Shri Krishna identifies 26 qualities, godly qualities. Let's take a look at it. Ravi has the book. Give him, please. He can read out. 16th chapter 1 to 3 verse translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness,
Slowly.
fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy, and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharat, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature.
Because we're just doing a kind of a summary study, giving you an overview. I don't have the time, but please do read the purport. Prabhupada have elaborated each of this quality and what it means. You'll be surprised with this meaning. We may have our own understanding of charity. Prabhupada tells what it means to be charitable. We may have our own understanding of what compassion means. Prabhupada defines what exactly compassion. So do read that. So these divine qualities that Krishna mentions here, these qualities, if we have that, then the life becomes progressive. As in Vedic sciences, there's a concept of mukti, liberation. These qualities paves the way for mukti or liberation. Whereas the demoniac qualities, it destroys one's well-being in this life and the next life. And not only destroys one's life, but it destroys the lives of people around him or her like that. So, how does this divine qualities are cultivated? How does the qualities are cultivated? Some of these things we have from our past life, past impressions, and rest of it we cultivate by our actions, by our determination, by our association. And accordingly, we become a product of what we are today, having some good qualities, having some bad qualities, but it can be changed like that. So this is a brief about this divine qualities, 26 qualities that Krishna mentions. Krishna first explains transcendental qualities so that a person can make progress in spiritual understanding. And thus, he outlines 26 qualities. And to be able to live by or to cultivate these qualities, first we have to come to a platform of goodness. Remember 14th chapter, personality test, goodness, passion, ignorance. The example of a cap seller, three brothers, Satto, Rajjo, and Tamo. How they all reacted differently to the same situation. And how do we cultivate mode of goodness? We spoke about in that. Giving up our aversion to the right things and giving away our attachment to the wrong things, which means developing attachment for the right things and aversion from the wrong things. In that chapter, Krishna says we should have a healthy lifestyle. No meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, pure life. Like that, Krishna talks about lifestyle in mode of goodness. And then in text number 4, Krishna introduces demonic qualities and he will further elaborate the demonic qualities. Let's take a look at it. What are demonic qualities? Dambo darpo vimanascha. Loudly, please. Krodha parushyam evacha. Ajnanam cha bijatasya. Partha sampadamasuram. Sampada means sampatti, wealth, which means, hey Arjuna, Asurim, these are the wealth of Asuric people. What? These 6 qualities here. Do you know when Duryodhana was about to take birth, Viduji saw omens. Omens, seeing the nature around and predicting what's going to happen, is a great science. Uh, I'll speak a little bit tomorrow on it, but just to give you a little trailer of it. You know, why we are what we are today, lost, disoriented, confused, despite our culture producing the best of the literatures, producing best of the architectures, having the best of the music, having best of the dining. Everything was best in this creation with the people of this land. But now today we are more or less lost about it. The first divorce that ever happened in our civilization, in our country, was in somewhere around 1922. The first case of divorce, and it hit the national newspaper, which means prior to that, there was never ever a concept of divorce like that. Very systematically, we have been brainwashed about the concept of exploitation of ladies, sati pratha, dowry, or as the caste system. The word caste doesn't exist in our Vedic scriptures. What exists in Vedic scriptures is varna. Varna means Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. If you do intellectual job, then you're a Brahmana. Maybe a doctor, lawyer, professor. This is doctor. This is a Brahmana profession. So this varna was defined or decided not by your birth, was defined and decided by your engagements. Just like somebody is born in a house of a doctor is not called a doctor. He has to get a doctor's degree. So the system was called Varna, which they manipulated and called it as a caste. There's a very nice video by one. Uh, this is the first Hindu OTT, Parachayam or something like that. I'll probably show it tomorrow about it. Anyways, when Duryodhan was about to be born, anyways, I was talking Gurukul. In Gurukul, there were 64 subjects or 64 arts which were taught to every student who will take admission in Gurukul. And that 64 hours were totally relevant and practical for your life. And in that, the 38th subject, or the 64 subjects, the 38th subject was understanding nature, or looking at the nature and understanding what's going to happen in future. That is called as science of omen. I don't remember, maybe here or maybe in my Friday morning, I had discussed at length about the subject matter of omens. So nonetheless, Vidurji saw the omens. Omens means indications, like braying of donkey, etc. At night when you go to sleep, sometimes you might have heard of crying of a dog. These are a very crystal clear indicators of something. Some people getting certain kind of dreams. There's a science behind it. Nonetheless, when Vidurji saw those omens, he went straight to Dhritarashtra and said, the eldest son of yours, he's just about to take birth. He has not done anything. Looking at the situation happening because he's about to take birth, Vidurji went to Dhritarashtra and said, because of your eldest son, looking at the omens, I can tell you what's going to happen in the future. This son of yours will destroy your dynasty. Disown him. Disown him and whole your family, whole your dynasty will survive. And the Dhritarashtra had hundreds of, if you would have given one, the things would be different. Anyways, Vidurji had that ability. He could see and understand. That's what means by knowledge. And these are some of the qualities. So now, onwards, when we look at this, have a character kind of Duryodhan. If you know of Ravana, maybe Ravana in your forefront, and you will understand all this thing. Damba means pride, a conceit, which means abhiman. Dambha, Dharpo, and Abhiman. Sanskrit is a beautiful language. We have a Sanskrit scholar. He would know better than I. I'm just a pre-KG student in Sanskrit. But every emotion and every quality has been described very beautifully. So we have Dambha and Abhiman. Dhamma means pride. Abhiman, Prabhupada translates that in English as conceit. Well, I don't know much about Sanskrit, but let me tell you something about English. Pride and conceit. If you talk about simple Sanskrit, Dambha, Abhiman sounds very similar, but there's a gulf of a difference. Pride means proud of one's achievements, which leads to arrogance. But conceit means nobody is better than I. Are you getting the difference between Dambha and Abhiman? Dhamma means I'm proud of what I have done. Either you have that or not, but you think you have done something. That is Dambha. It's not the positive quality of pride. And Abhiman, which means nobody is better than I. Just like Dronacharya sent Duryodhan and Yudhishthira both. Go and find out. Duryodhan, go and find out somebody better than you. And Yudhishthira, go and find out somebody lower than you. And then both of them came back after their research, and Dronacharya asked, Duryodhan, did you find anyone better than you? He said, no, Guru Maharaj. I am the only best person in this creation. And then Yudhishthira asked him, then Dronacharya asked, so Yudhishthira, did you find anyone lower than you? He said, my dear Gurudev, no, because I am the lowest. How can anyone be lower than I? So both gave no. But one's answer was different, other was different. Dambho, Darpa, Abhimanas, Krodha, anger. And this is very interesting. Parushyam. Parushyam means harshness, harsh speech. Speaking in such a way that, agitates and disturbs others. Ajnanam, like that. We'll take a look at it in a short while. And these qualities, I'll explain in a short while. So there are two kinds of created beings. One is born with divine qualities, other born of demonic qualities. So when Arjuna heard this little introduction, then he asked a question to Lord Shri Krishna. He said, "My dear Lord," that's a very valid question. Is my desire to take part in war due to demoniac temperament? One of the demonic nature is anger, and krodha was mentioned. So he said, "My dear Lord, I'm taking part in a war is because I have this demonic nature. I like violence. Is it because of that?" And then Krishna speaks the fifth verse, 16.5. Krishna says, "Arjuna, there are two kinds of being created in this world, divine and demoniac. As far as you are concerned, you're born with the divine nature. All right, I am born with the divine nature." And then Arjuna had another question in mind. Arjuna said, "But how my fighting will not be demoniac?" And then Krishna speaks 18.6 or 16.6. Please read the translation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. O son of Pratha, in this world there are two kinds of
No, this is sixth verse. I've already explained the fifth one. Translation for the sixth verse. Six. That's the thing in six. Okay, go ahead.
O son of Pratha, in this world there are two kinds of created beings. One is called the divine and the other demonic. I have already explained at you at length the divine qualities. Now hear from me of the demonic.
Correct. How my fighting will not be demoniac? Krishna said, "Well, let me explain you what demonic means. I have already told you you're born of a divine nature." One thing about this divine and demoniac qualities, Srimad Bhagavatam talks about the origin of this whole creation, origin of our forefathers. So there was a great sage by the name of Kashyapa who had several wives, daughters of Daksha, and there were two daughters of Daksha among many daughters of Daksha who were married to Kashyapa. One name was Diti, and another name was Aditi. From Diti came Daityas, and from Aditi came Adityas. Very interesting. The father of divine and demonic both is same. It's not they're coming from separate thing. The father is same, which means it is our choice. Which means, despite having a same father, a great Brahmana, and the daughters, the wives also belong to the same father, Daksha. How come one lineage became Asuric, other lineage became Daivi? There is a very fine line which defines or discriminates between divine and demonic. And that is something we need to understand, if not anything and everything else. What is that dividing line? I want all of you to pay attention. What is the dividing line which makes a distinction between divine and demoniac? And the dividing line is the dividing line between a demon, a demoniac, and who is divine is adherence to Shastra. Not just one's behavior, but one must be sincerely trying to follow Shastra. Which means Ravana, probably you're aware of Ramayana, probably you know about Ravana. Ravana was a great Asura. Whose son was he? Of an Asura? No, he was a son of a great Brahmana. And how come being a son of a great Brahmana, he can be an Asura? We think somebody's Asura, his father should be Asura. Not like that. Which means he was a son of a great Brahmana, which means he was learned in Vedic sciences entirely. But he chose not to follow. He chose not to follow. Isn't it interesting? We have made things so complicated today by tagging people with different religions. And then we keep on fighting. If you belong to this religion, you have to be demoniac. It doesn't work like this. You belong to whatever its subject matter is. Do you follow or not follow? So those who followed dharma, which means shastras, they're said to be of godly qualities. We'll see the conduct of Arjuna and Duryodhana. And those who did not follow, they're said to be of the demonic. The Ravana, despite being the son of the greatest of the Brahmanas, being highly learned, yet, same with Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, they were the son of Brahmanas, Kashyapa Muni only, and they were demonic because of not following or living according to Shastras. Now, question arises, where do we fall into? I don't know if you understood the meaning of my question. Let me ask this question and see if you got the question or not. Where do you all fall into? Which category? In the bucket of divine or demoniac? So, how many of you say we are in the bucket of divine? I am the divinity personified. So, raise your hand. All right. So, only two people are confident enough. Well, we have to ask their family members and friends. They'll tell the truth, how divine they are. There is a great illusory energy of Maya. All right. What about the demoniac? How many of you think we fall in the bucket of demoniac? Asura. Hey, there is no third bucket, huh? You pick your choice. Otherwise, we'll have to put you out of human species. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. So, what do you think? How many of you think you fall into demoniac bucket then? Now, that's big. How many of you have gone to astrologer ever? Have you been to astrologer? Okay, I'll not ask you what your astrologer said about your chart, but you'll see there will be something called, you are like Asuric. There is Asuric, what do you call as Daiva, Gana like this. ठीक है जाके चेक करना कौन सी करते all right, that's so jokes apart, it's very simple and straightforward. If you follow Vedic scriptures, not only know scriptures but you follow, then it's a godly life because the scriptures teaches you how to live a godly life. And if you don't follow scriptures, which means despite knowing you decide to violate, is the same thing. There are rules by which the state of Maharashtra is governed or the country of India is governed, right or no? Despite knowing the rules, just like the traffic rules, despite knowing the traffic rules, you jump the signal. You become adharmic, yes or no? You become adharmic, yes or no? You are culpable, you're punishable, yes or no? It's the same thing. If you don't know the laws of God, you cannot follow, and if you know and don't follow, either way, it's called as adharma. That's it. That's it. Simple, straightforward. So now, rest of the subject matter, I'm going to divide into categories to make it easy for all of you to understand. Otherwise, the subject matter will become a little longer. First, we're going to talk about now the opinions and outlooks of demons. In other words, here Lord Shri Krishna will talk about, or Krishna will distinguish the activities, actions, the mentality, and the philosophy of these demoniac persons. What governs their mentality and action is the philosophy. So Krishna is going to highlight and talk about that. And then Krishna also talks about how these individuals of these demonic qualities, they continue to remain in this material world and undergo the ongoing sufferings of, Adi Atmika, Adi Bhautika, Adi Devika, and Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, like that. So let's take a look at these things. So first, we're going to talk about demoniac nature and activities. Any thoughts? What would be the demonic nature? What would be the activities of such individuals? You can take any example in your mind, Ravana and Duryodhan. It'll be very easy for you to come up with an answer. What could be the demonic nature or the activity? Think about Duryodhan and Ravana for that reason, yes? Kama, Krodh, Lobha, Moha, Madmasya are filled with delusion. Perfect, very nice. What else? Arrogant, Duryodhan. Self-centered, selfish, harsh, cruel, arrogant. What else? What else? They don't know what is right and wrong. We're talking demonic nature and activities. Very nice. They don't know what is right and what is wrong. Wonderful. Let's take a look at first thing. First, it begins with neglect shastra. They will just not follow. So remember in the beginning we were making a slide divine and demoniac. I said divine means you follow Guru Sadhu Shastra, and demonic means I do whatever I want to do it. I am the boss. This world has to function according to my whims. And I gave an example of Duryodhana and Arjuna. Arjuna, Krishna said fight, Arjuna obeyed. And Duryodhana, Krishna went as a peace messenger. He was not even asking Duryodhana to give back Khandava-Pras or Indrapras. He said, give 5 villages. Yet Duryodhana said nothing doing. And he attempted to arrest Lord Shri Krishna. So neglect Shastra, which means they don't know what is right, what is wrong. This is the 7th verse. A lot of things are mentioned in 7th verse. They're unclean. They do not have proper behavior because they neglect Shastra. They don't have proper behavior. One of the fundamental things that Shastra teaches about the conducts and etiquette is about how to deal with others. Chanakya Pandit says, Matravat paradareshu paradraveshu lostravat, and so forth. English translation, Matravat paradareshu. Every other woman except for one's wife is my mother. This is called as civilization. This is called as culture. Matravat paradareshu. Except for my wife, everyone is my mother. Matravat paradareshu paradravyeshu lostravat. Paradravyeshu means others' property. A person does not attempt to steal others' property. He sees others' property as others or considers to be insignificant, which means he's content with what one has. Like that, Chanakya Pandit talks about it. So that's about proper behavior. Let's begin with an example of Arjuna versus Duryodhana. Arjuna meeting Urvashi. Know the story? And heavenly planet Indralok Amravati. Indra introduced to everyone, this is Arjuna, my son, who has come to heaven to learn about the art of mystical weapons. And Urvashi, a celestial woman, she saw Arjuna and she got attracted to Arjuna. And Arjuna also saw Urvashi. So Urvashi thought maybe he's also interested in me. At the end of the night, at the end of the day, Urvashi went to meet Arjuna. And she said, well, I've come to you, let's have some fun together. And Arjuna did not even look at her eyes. While looking at the feet, that's our Vedic culture. We don't look in the eyes of the mother straight. Looking at the feet, well, don't do it today. Mothers will get insulted. They'll think, kahan dekh rahe ho? So, today better you look at the eyes. So times have changed. And looking at the feet of Urushi, he said, no, mother, he said, mother. And she got so offended. Why are you calling me mother? Why were you looking at me during the evening program? So Arjuna said, Mother Urvashi, you reminded me of my ancestors because Kauravas or Purus had come for, Urvashi was one of in the previous Satya Yuga, had got in relationship with Puru, if I'm wrong, correct, Pururuva. And through that, the dynasty came. From where came Kurus, Yadus, and all that. So, mother, my dear Urvashi, you are one of my great great grandmother. That happened on planet Earth. And heavens, the time scales are different. Urvashi became so wild and mad. And she said, you rascal, you reject my offer. You're not worthy to be called as a human. You're not worthy to be called as a man. I curse you, you'll become eunuch. And Arjuna accepted it. It was Indra who reduced the curse of Urvashi, making Arjuna to eunuch, to reduce that to 1 year. He said, well, curse cannot be taken back, but I can reduce the punishment and let it be for 1 year. And he told to Arjuna, Arjuna, you can use this to your advantage in the incognito periods when you have to go into incognito. That's Arjuna dealing with Urvashi. Does anyone know who Urvashi is? What Urvashi means? What was the birth of Urvashi? Okay, let me go in a little more history. So you understand there are some fascinating stories. Nar Narayan Rishi, the great sages, they were performing austerities, and Indradev became a little insecure. That Nar Narayan Rishi will become very powerful with their austerities, and then they may usurp my kingdom. So Indradev has this very classical weapon by the name of Kamadevta. Sounds familiar? And he sends Kamadevtas to distract the person doing his austerities and to make him attracted to opposite sex. And he sent Kamdevta. Kamdevta came in front of Narayan Rishi and he produced many apsaras, or he came along with many apsaras with a way. And they began to dance to attract the mind of Narayan Rishi. Not at all affected, not at all affected. And that point of time, word Urushi, Uru means thighs. At that point of time, for Narayana, thighs, appeared a woman whose name was given Urvashi. And when Urvashi appeared, everyone fainted looking at her beauty, even the apsaras. Kamdevta forgot why did he came there. That was the situation. Everyone forgot. And then Narayan said, well, please accept this gift. Give it to Indradev. And Indradev was really, really attached to Urvashi. So he would always use Urvashi. So Arjuna said no to whom? The most beautiful woman in this whole creation, Urvashi, Apsara. Fast forward to Duryodhan. How did he dealt with his own bhabi? Draupadi? How did he insult it? And Jayadratha, he even kidnapped Draupadi. Look about it. So this is the idea of not knowing what is right, what is wrong, no proper behavior. This is demoniac. Then ritualistic. They may do something apparently looking good, but does not have actual purpose. Yudhishthira Maharaj had performed Rajasuya Yajna. Rajasuya Yajna he performed just because he wanted to glorify Krishna. That was the purpose. And that's the reason at the end of Rajasuya Yajna, Bhishma Pitama got up and he declared, the best of the person in this assembly is Lord Shri Krishna, where Shishupal got angry and he started cursing Krishna, and then Krishna chopped off his head. So later on, when Pandavas were sent to the forest by Duryodhana was thinking how to win the favor of my citizens. I can win the favor of my citizens if I can do something greater than what Pandavas did. So he got his Brahmanas in the assembly. He said, well, suggest me a yajna. Either you tell me I'll do Rajasuya yajna or better yajna than Rajasuya yajna. So my citizens will favor me. So when Pandavas come back, they would not want to go back to Pandavas. So the sages said, well, Rajasuya yajna is the best of the yajna, but you cannot do that yajna as long as the king who had completed that yajna is still alive. The rules and regulations. Duryodhana said, well, if not, find out something which is greater than this. Not equal, even greater. They went through the whole scriptures and they found out there is particular yajna which has never ever been done in the history. That is called as Vaishnava yajna. The highest, the best of the yajna. And Duryodhana successfully completed that yajna. But what was the purpose of that yajna? Vaishnava yajna, from the name itself, is very clear. It is for the pleasure of Vaishnavas and the Lord. What did he attain? He just wanted to tell the public, I am such a great believer of God. During the political, this is a season going on. Suddenly, different people begin to visit temples. So that's what it means. Ritualistic have no meaning. Again, Duryodhana and Arjuna. Performing Ugra Karma. Ugra Karma means building, this all kind of factories, heavy constructions, like cow slaughter machines. They have built the cow slaughter machines where in a single day tens of thousands of cows can be killed through machines. This is called as Ugra Karma. Ugra Karma means producing sinful reactions which results into natural calamities like earthquake, flooding, and severe weather conditions. Forest fire, where lives of many individuals get affected. That is a result of Ugra Karma, like that. And then unclean habits, 16.10. In 16.10 is also mentioned about uh, one more thing, which I have not included here, I believe, is in the notes here, is about the illusion. They live their life in illusion. And the greatest illusion is, it's pretty interesting what has been taught to us and how illusion works. We have been taught our ancestors lived in a Stone Age era and we are becoming better civilized. How many of you have heard this? Raise your hand. Our ancestors lived in Stone Age era and we are becoming better civilized now. We are becoming civilized and we were uncivilized. Yes or no? Now, when this kind of an indication given to you, then you always think, I am better than before. So even if I have a mistakes, I'm improving. But imagine if your understanding is flipped and if you are told, my dear sir, you were civilized and now you are walking towards uncivilization or you're becoming uncivilized. Now, would you stop and begin to change in your actions or behavior? Yes or no? Take a look at it. We are taught we're coming from Stone Age area and what we have done of our life today. There used to be wonderful joint families. How many of you grew up in a joint family with your grandparents, with Taoji, Taiji, Chacha, Chachi? And today, because nobody is there, we are a nuclear family, then we have maid servants taking care of our kids. This is your civility. Then we had no divorce rate. There was no concept of, what do you call as, गर्भ में बच्चों को मारने के कहते हैं? Abortion. Even Kamsa did not thought of aborting Devki's kids in the womb. Think about it. Even Kamsa waited for Devki to give birth and then kill. Did Kamsa didn't have the mystic? He was a great mystic person. He could have chanted a mantra and could have aborted the child. Even he did not committed a heinous crime like this, which is an everyday story today, like this. Old age homes. The parents have become an obligation, a burden for today's generation. Nobody wants to live with their parents, isn't it? This is what we are walking towards, civilization, or we're becoming uncivilized. What do you think about it? When you read Ramayana and Mahabharata, then you understand culture. And when you compare to that, where is our culture? Where is our civilization? Because we've been given a wrong understanding, so we don't understand that. Demonic nature and activities. Moving forward, demonic philosophy and realization. The demonic philosophy is world is unreal and there is no God in control. We all have gone through the modern education system. None of us have come from Gurukul here. And the major difference between Gurukul based education and the modern education system is Gurukul education was based on Vedic scriptures like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Purana, Vedic scriptures, etc., which from the very first lesson instilled the understanding that there is a superior power. There is an existence of a higher power. There is a God. There is a laws of God, law of karma, etc. Your actions, behaviors automatically got refined because you know there is somebody who's looking at me. The sun and the moon are the two eyes of the Lord by which He's constantly looking at us. We cannot hide any action from Him because He's omnipresent. He's everywhere as Paramatma. So even if I think if I switch off the lights and do a heinous act or criminal activity, yet I am caught. Now imagine when you know this, can you do anything wrong? Now look at the modern education that's given to us. Everything is accredited or credited to a human being. Now, who invented law of gravity? Was it invented or discovered? It was discovered. If something has been discovered, must have been invented also, na? Discovery comes later on, invention comes first. So discovery was done by whom? न्यूटन. अब ऐसा तो है नहीं उसी दिन सेब गिरे थे पेड़ से, सेब तो पहले भी गिरते थे. So it means law of gravity existed before also. So who invented or who created law of gravity? Now that is you are telling. Which book, physics, chemistry, bio book tells you? It's God. Think about it. Everything has been credited to a human being, and the God subject matter is entirely not there. And that's the reason we have created this kind of atheistic or demoniac civilization where the life exists only on this planet. There is no life anywhere else. We are the best of the civilized or the best species, and we can abuse this world as we want to do it, and we are the controller. No superior control, no existence of soul, only one life, and that's all. Goal of life is to gratify senses. I've given the verses. When you get the PPT, you can read out the verses at your own comfort. Like this, goal of life is to gratify senses. How old you become, but basic gross nature of a man doesn't changes. And one of that is lustful propensities. Even up to the old age, person continues. There's a famous story of Akbar and Birbal where they were having discussion about this base nature of karma. Where Akbar said, well, if you grow old, automatically this lust will go away. Birbal said, no, it never happens like this. Akbar said, oh, really? When you don't have a capacity, why would you still have lust? Birbal said, let me prove you. Apparently, Akbar's daughter had a daughter. She was sick. She was in a medical facility, and Akbar, Birbal were in the room, and they invited one old man. And the old man entered. And when the old man entered that room, he was not looking at Akbar and Birbal. He was looking at the daughter. And then Birbal told, "See, even if you become old, this lust does not go away like this. Goal of life to gratify senses. And that is what the education, isn't it about? Become successful, enjoy life. What is right, what is wrong, that is not a subject matter. And therefore, they have made it compulsory to have moral education. And do you know what is the quality of moral education? Have you, any one of you have read? If you have teenagers in your family, their moral books, I mean, they're talking about girlfriend and boyfriend. And they're talking about moral education. A teenager can have a boyfriend. Why can't a teenage girl have a girlfriend? Oh, sorry, boyfriend. Sorry, boy can have a girlfriend. Why can't a teenager girl have a boyfriend? And if the parents stop teenager girl from having a boyfriend, then this is subjugation of a woman empowerment. Women should be empowered to have boyfriends like that. This is the books which have been taught to the students. Try to take God out of picture, as I said, atheistic education. And what is the demoniac mentality? I am the controller and enjoyer. Whatever I survey is for my enjoyment. I am perfect, powerful, and I'm happy. My competitors are dead or would be dead soon. They take shelter of insatiable lust. Example, Hiranyakashipu, he wanted to become God, so much so he created his own mantra. Om Namo Narayana Namaha is a Vedic chant. Hiranyakashipu created Om Namo Hiranyakashipu Namaha. And you have to chant this mantra or else you'll be sentenced to death. Because his grandsons, because his grandsons did not took his permission and they worshipped Brahma, Hiranyakashipu became so upset, he cursed his own grandsons that I curse you to die. And in your very next life, because they got a boon that no God can kill them. So he cursed them that in your next life you'll be killed by your own father. And their sixth son's father was Kalanemi, son of Hiranyakashipu, and Kalanemi in the next life became Kamsa. And the six sons became the sons of Devaki. And that's how Kamsa killed the six sons. So that's what, their nature is. And the story, this is a picture of Hiranyakashipu trying to kill his 5-year-old son Prahlad because he chose to chant Om Namo Narayana Namaha. And this was the degree of his envy. He wanted to kill his own 5-year-old son because he didn't chant his father's name but Vishnu's name, like this. Envious of the lords, envious of the scripture, Shishupal, Dantavakra, and the scriptures, which means they do not follow scripture. Very interesting point. Do you know of any example where you have seen any demon being envious of Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma? Or you know of only examples where they have been only envious of Lord Vishnu? And these demons also would go to either Shiva or Brahma only to get blessings. Yes or no? Jayadratha worshiped Lord Shiva. Kamsa, his worshipable deity was Lord Shiva. Hiranyakashipu went to Brahma. You name anyone. It's very interesting. Somehow they have envy from one god only. That is Vishnu. Food for thought. You can think further about it. And what is the results of demoniac work? Perplexed by immeasurable anxiety. They can never be peaceful. Like Kamsa. Last Sunday only I spoke about Kamsa. He was so frightened. He was so frightened of Krishna, he could not even sleep peacefully. I mean, in his dreams, he would see Krishna. Now, let me ask you a question. Duryodhana sent Pandavas away for 13 years. At least now he should sleep peacefully. He deserves peaceful sleep. He has no threat for next 13 years. Apparently, Yudhishthira Maharaj enjoyed his time in the forest. So much so Draupadi was worried. Would he go back also or not? He's so happy in the forest among the sadhus. Which means Pandavas had a very wonderful time in the forest and they really had an adventurous time. What about Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra? Mahabharata tells they could not sleep peacefully even a single night. Why? Because they were doing the reverse calculation. 12 साल 11 महीने 12 साल 10 महीने 12 साल 9 महीने. And with every passing day, the anxiety of Duryodhan and Dhritarashtra was increasing. Pandavas aa jayenge. Pandavas aa jayenge. So perplexed by immeasurable anxiety. Bound up by a network of desire. They just cannot be satisfied with anything and anything. Like Ravana, Puranas describe the story of Ravana, what all crime he did not commit. But he was never ever satisfied with whatever he had. Bound up by a network of desires. They're compelled and pushed by their desires. Deluded and bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, they often end up making wrong decisions. Deluded, bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger. Classic example is Duryodhana. Does anyone know what was the last word spoken by Duryodhana before he died? The last statement spoken by Duryodhana was, Krishna, you are responsible for this war. And then Krishna said, wait a second, let me tell you who's responsible for this war. And Krishna said, Duryodhan, it is not I who is responsible for this war. There's only one person who is responsible for this war, and it is you. Why? Because you never heard the advice of your well wishers and of your seniors. You always thought what you know and what you did was right. It's your actions that have brought you here. I even came to ask you for 5 villages. What did you do? You attempted to arrest me. Don't blame me. And these are the same people who would cry victim mentality. There is nothing called as victimhood except in the mind of the individual who is just reaping the results of his own actions. What happened with Duryodhan was a result of his own karmic reactions. He cheated through all through his life. Then Krishna also cheated in the end. And he had got by the blessing of Gandhari, his whole body had become like an iron. But Krishna cheated Duryodhana before Gandhari asked Duryodhana, come naked in front of him. Oh, Duryodhana said, why? Gandhari said, don't ask question. I told you come naked. And Duryodhana was walking naked towards Gandhari, his own mother. Then Krishna came in between. Krishna, hey, क्या कर रहा है? शर्म नहीं आती इतना बड़ा लड़का नंगा घूम रहा है? दुर्योधन बोला, प्रभु मेरी माँ ने मुझे बुलाया है. बोले, माँ ने बुलाया है, तू बड़ा हो चुका है, इतनी तो शर्म होनी चाहिए. You should put a cloth to cover your lower body. And because Krishna deceived him like this, he put a cloth, he put a towel to cover his lower body. And when he reached in front of Gandhari, Gandhari took out her blindfold. And when she looked for the first time after getting married, the first time she opened her blindfold, and when she looked from bottom to top, she scanned his body and made it like iron. And then Gandhari said, Duryodhana, oh fool, who told you to put this gamcha around? I told you, come without any cloth. And then Gandhari and the Duryodhana understood the trick of Krishna. And at the time when there was a club fight between Duryodhana and Bhima, there was no way Bhima could defeat. Because according to the rules of the club fight, you're supposed to hit above the waist. How much ever Duryodhana would hit, you're hitting iron with iron. What happens? Club is made of iron. Duryodhana's body is made of iron. You hit iron with iron, nothing happens. Bhimsen with all his might would smash club on the head of Duryodhan, and Duryodhan will get inside the earth. He'll go beneath the earth because of pressure. But how much ever Bhimsen will hit, nothing happens. And finally, when fight went for a long time, then Krishna said to Arjuna, tell Duryodhan, tell Bhima, hit at his thighs. And Arjuna hinted to Bhimsen, and Bhimsen then attacked on his thighs, which were not protected by the blessing of Dari. And that's how Arjuna Duryodhana died. And that's the reason Duryodhana is saying, you are responsible. Krishna said, how can I be responsible? You are the one who ordered the disrobing of Draupadi. You are the one who cheated Pandavas. You are the one who were not willing to return the kingdom of Pandavas after doing all this sin. You accept dharma to be practiced now? How is it possible? Deluded and bewildered by false ego and fall down into hellish, abominable life and demoniac species. Coming to conclusion, how does somebody becomes a nice demon? What is the stages of becoming a demon? It's a good question or not a good question? It's a good question. How does somebody become a demon? Nobody is born as demon and divine. Somebody is born with certain nature, but then what you do in your life, what you associate, makes you what you are. What would be the first thing which acts as a foundation in making you divine and demoniac? Huh? Association, okay. What is before association? What is that one thing that defines? The foundational thing is education. The demoniac philosophy breeds demoniac mentality. That's what we are today. Not having any God conscious understanding because we all have gone through demoniac philosophy left to us by Britishers. There's a lot of conversation what's going to be in the third term of Modi. And one of the things which have been hinted to us by his department is he's really going to start Gurukul system. A lot of work has been already done in that direction, and a lot of work has been done by our team in instituting a Gurukul. So, Krishna willing, we may see a formal Gurukul education system starting within a short span of time. Because if you have a right education, you have the right people around you. That's what it is. ISKCON already has many Gurukuls, but we need to formalize so that many, many other people can join in. Then demonic mentality, which is born of demonic philosophy, leads to demonic activities. That's what today's young generation. What do you think about the situation of today's youth? Is better than your youth? Is worse than your youth? How many of you say is better than my youth? I was more troubled and spoiled child. Don't make it a personal case, but in general. Or do you think today's youth is more spoiled? इनकी तो इनकी इज्जत इतनी खराब हो गई है, कोई रेंटल प्रॉपर्टी के लिए नहीं जाओ और आप यूथ हो, वैसे ही ओनर भगा देता है, बोले निकल जाओ. Either you be a male or a female. Nobody wants to give a house to single ladies and single boys. Yes or no? Familiar? देखो 100%. कितनी इज्जत की बात है, हाँ? This is the situation of the youth today. So, how many of you agree that today's youth are more spoiled, disoriented than our youth when we were youth? Raise your hands. What do you think about it? Yes? Those who are not raising hand, they think आज के youth सुधर गए, हम लोग बिगड़े हुए थे, क्या है? You probably sleeping during the class or maybe waiting for dinner time. The demonic activities then bring demoniac results. Look, who is happy around? Okay, let me ask this. Do we have far much more material comfort and means of enjoyment today? Yes or no? If it is hot, you got a AC. If it is cold, you got a heater. You got a nice cars, remote control cars. You can travel by plane. Good vacation spots. Very comfortable living, isn't it? Smart TV, smart homes, everything smart. So much convenience and comfort. Is this generation more happier than the previous generation, which didn't had any of these material conveniences? How many of you say today's generation is more miserable than the previous generation? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. All right, let's walk through with this. Demonic results means suffering. Crisis because of demonic activities, which means somewhere, somehow, we are engaged in demonic activities because we don't know what is dharma and adharma. Demonic activity begins with demonic mentality. हम गलत काम तभी करेंगे जब गलत धारणा होगी, और गलत धारणा से गलत काम से गलत फल, that is suffering. We all are suffering because of wrong action because of demonic mentality, and that mentality comes from wrong education. I often say ISKCON is not a temple, ISKCON is an educational hub. Our goal is to establish Vedic education system. And you look around the whole world, how Srila Prabhupada's life and his teachings and his books, which he established as a forum called ISKCON, have transformed the lives of the people all over the world. If in case you know anything about ISKCON, those who are completely disoriented, completely confused, nobody in the history of the mankind have done so much for our Hinduism or Vedic civilization as much as Srila Prabhupada single-handedly did. Great Vivekananda ji also went out. He also contributed, but he couldn't transform the people all over the world as much as Srila Prabhupada. He had a great influence back in India, but how many Westerners? He got one lady along with him come back from the West. How many disciple students he had from the West? How many people he transformed? Prabhupada did the magic. He transformed, he made the hippies into the happies. Transforming the character is the most difficult magic one can perform. Producing some ashes, producing something, or showing off different things, a different thing, is an easier magic show. But transforming a character is the most difficult thing. And look, ISKCON have more than 1,000 temples or educational hubs all over the world, including Pakistan, Middle East, China, and whatnot, Russia. And it's still surprising, our very Hindu, nationalistic people who have this Hindu spirit still cannot get this idea of why they should, they should take to this education and then make your choice about it, how you want to live your life. At least have your life based on Vedic education. If not, at least understand, once study Bhagavad Gita, if not anything else. Finally, Arjuna asks, my dear Lord, how does one becomes demoniac and gets into hellish life? Krishna said, well, there are three things that leads to gates to hell. If not, be careful of these three things. Please repeat after me. Trividham narakasedam dwaram nashanamatvanaha kamakrodastatha lobhash tasmadetattrayam tayajat. Trividham narakasedam. There are three gates to hell, Narak. Dwaram Nashanam Atma. Dwara means door, Nashanam Atma, which destroys the self. What are the names of three gates to hell? Kamaha, Krodha, and Lobh. Krodha is a younger brother of Kama, just like Kumbhakaran to Ravana. If there is a Kama, Krodh will definitely follow. Because when kama is not fulfilled, what happens next? Is krodha. And greed is a cousin brother of kama. When greed is fulfilled, what happens next? Ye dil mange more. Right? So you got the relationship between krodha and lobha, they are all related with kama. They both follow behind kama. And from where does this kama originate? Kamesha, krodesha, rajoguna, samudbhava. They all are born from mode of passion. Therefore, Krishna says, elevate yourself to sattva guna. You can only elevate when you know the art of, or when you understand the science about it. This is about three gates to hell. Tasmad etam triyam tayachat. Kam, krodh, and lobha. Like this. So, how do we gain freedom? Lord Shri Krishna says, scriptures. This was 16th chapter, verse number 23, right? 24. Please read the translation of last 2-3 verses. This is 21 if I'm correct. 22, 23, 24. Read the translation.
The man who has escaped these three gates of hell, O son of Kunti, performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus graduates supreme destination.
So question comes, how does he understand about the science of self-realization? Next verse will answer that. Go ahead. Verse number 23.
Verse number 23.
Second last verse of the subject. Go ahead.
He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attain neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination.
यह शास्त्रम विधिम उत्सृज्य. जो शास्त्र की विधि, जो विधि विधान है, उत्सृज्य मीन्स त्याग देता है. Give it up. ये शास्त्र विधिम उत्सृज्य वर्तते कामकारता and acts according to his own whims and desires. नास सिद्धिम अवाप्नोति. He does not find perfection. Na sukham, na param gatim, nor happiness, nor higher destination. I was saying, Krishna says it very clear. What is the fine line between divine and demoniac? Is adherence to scriptures. And going against scriptures, Krishna says, Ye Shastra Vidhimusasha, who gives up the life according to Shastra, who acts Vartate Kama Karata, according to one's own Kama, desires, na siddhim, na sukham, na param gatim. He does not find happiness, perfection, or higher destination. And finally, Krishna concludes 16.24 is Tasma Shastram Paramanam Te Karya Akarya Vaivastithu Gyatma Shastram Vidhanoktam Karma Kartum Iharasi. Tasmat means therefore, which means conclusion. Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te. What is the pramanam? What is an evidence? It's according to Shastra, which means who lives according to Shastra Praman, Karya Akarya Vyavastitu, who performs actions or inactions according to Shastra Praman. Gyatma Shastra Vidhanuktam, which means one who follows the laws or injunctions given in scriptures, karma kartum irhasi. In other words, one should understand what is duty, what is not duty by the regulation of scriptures, and knowing such rules and regulation, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated, make a progress in life. It only happens with the right education. The difference between divine and demoniac is only of education. One who has an education based on Vedic sciences and one who follows that, then he lives a life of divinity, paves the way back to Godhead. However, one who does not do so, who violates, he suffers. How does Shastras makes us move forward? It regulates our sense gratification, elevates, brings us to goodness and beyond. And that's the whole idea. I already read this verse. Is following Shastra enough? Well, yes. The whole goal of Shastra, following Shastra, is to actually become the devotee of the Lord. Here we are concluding the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. More or less, Arjuna's and Krishna discussions are over. And if you look at it, where it ends is, we should follow Shastra. And Shastra is given by whom? Vedaischa sarver aham eva vedyo vedantakrit veda vedevacham. This Vedic knowledge is given by me, Krishna says in 15th chapter, 15th verse. And the goal of this Vedic education is to know me. What do you do after knowing me? Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskaru. Develop your loving relationship with me. Why should I develop loving relationship to Krishna? Mamevamsu jiva loka jiva bhuta sanatana. Because every living entity is part and parcel of the Lord. Krishna is our father. Aham bija pratapitaha. He's our father, he's our mother, he's our well-wisher, he's our benefactor. Bhoktaram yagnatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam Gyatamam Shanti Machati. And that's the goal of Vedic education, to know Krishna and to love Krishna. And Vedic education does not prohibit your sense gratification, it regulates. Because anything which is done in excess becomes suffering, yes or no? Even if you love gulab jamun, but if you eat in excess, it will lead to indigestion. But if you eat in regulated manner, you will be happy and you will continue with a healthy body. Yes, that is how the idea of Bhagavad Gita, Yukta Ahar, Yukta Vihar, Yukta Cheshta Karmasu, Yukta Sapno Bodhasya, Yukta Bhavati Sadhuka. You can defeat all kind of suffering if you have a regulated life, regulated dining, food, regulated sleep, regulated wake up, regulated amount of work. And that is the way we live our life. So Krishna is not only telling us how to go back home back to God, and Krishna is also teaching us how to live our life happily. Be happy in this world and be happy thereafter. That's the message of Bhagavad Gita. In one sense, Gita ends. But there are two more chapters. Why 17th chapter is there? Because Arjuna would ask a question. My dear Lord, what about those who still worship somebody but they do not have that faith based on Shastra? And Arjuna is asking about all of us. We all have worshipped some Devi and Devta. We had some altar in our house, but we have never ever read any book about them. How many of you agree? Maharashtra is very famous for Ganesh Chaturthi. How much they know about Ganesh festival? How much people really know about why do we have to do Visarjan? Then we have Durga Puja, Navaratri, whatnot. How much people really know about the fasting? And we have that most famous Diwali ke din, Lakshmi Ganesh ki puja. How many of you know the relationship between Lakshmi and Ganesh ji? Who knows? Why we bring Lakshmi and Ganesh ji together and worship them? चाची हैं गणेश जी की, ताई जी हैं, मामी है, कौन है? You know what? Ganesh ji, son of Parvati. Why Lakshmi Ganesh is worshipped? People are totally clueless. और बड़ी श्रद्धा के संग साल के बाद साल दिवाली का दिन है, कैसे बाहर निकल जाए बिना पूजा करे? We are quite ritualistic. So Arjuna will ask a question: what about such people who are very ritualistic, have no Vedic knowledge, but they do a lot of worship according to some faith? And Krishna will speak. I guess we have one more reason to study 17th chapter because now it's about us. With that, I'll pause here. The next topic I have titled as lifestyle management. Krishna will speak about austerity of mind, body, and speech. We'll take a look at when we meet next time, which will be the second last episode of our Gita series. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Bhagavad Gita ki. Any questions or any comments? Yes, sir. Give him the mic, please.
I heard that non-violence comes under divine. What about cowardness?
Oh, okay. First of all, we have to understand what is violence. Then we'll talk about non-violence. If you look at the greatest of the wars have been fought under the direction of Lord Ram and Lord Krishna. One was fought to rescue Mother Sita, and the best of the devotee Hanumanji led that effort. And then other war was fought by Arjuna under the guidance of Krishna and to protect Dharma. So, don't you think there is something a little fishy about when non-violence has been spoken by the Lord to be divine, yet Lord Himself and both the avatars or any avatars, Lord Nrsimhadev came and didn't sit and had a nice dinner with Hiranyakashipu. He did a surgery, right? That's also act of violence. Look at any of the avatara. Varadev appeared, he kind of killed Hiranyaksha. What is violence? From the external point of view, non-violence looks like, just not engaging in a battle, which means protecting the body. But that is not the idea of violence and non-violence because nobody can protect the body. With time, body has to die. So definition of violence in Vedic scriptures, Vedic understanding refers to more deeper than protecting body or harming body because body is temporary. The Shastras or Vedic sciences focus on Atma. The violence towards Atma means to inhibit or restrict anyone's spiritual growth. That is violence. And what is non-violence? To promote and share about God consciousness. That is the idea of non-violence, where you help connect one's relationship with the Lord. That is non-violence. And what is violence? When you inhibit and restrict and avoid spiritual education, that is violence. Is that making sense? Cowardice, so as the word says, that is means inability to perform your duty. Cowardness, Krishna says, Yudhusva vigataha jvara, third chapter 32. Arjuna, give up your laziness and fight. The cowardliness is not only in the field of battlefield, cowardliness is in every day and night of our life. Where, on the pretext of cowardliness, we keep on postponing performing our responsibilities and duties. Therefore, Krishna says, you should become responsible. And how do you become responsible? The opposite of responsible behavior is cowardliness, where you're trying to run away from your action. And Krishna says, how do you become responsible? Yagna arthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karmana bandhanaha. Tadartham karma kanteya mukta sangha samachara. Third chapter, verse number 9 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, every work that you do should be done as a sacrifice. Yagna arthat karmano anyatra. If you perform yagya, work, or not yagya, if you perform work except for yagya, yagna arthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana, that action of yours will bind you. Lokoyam karma bandhana. However, tad artham karma kanteya. But artha, karma, kanteya. O son of Kunti, you perform work for me. Tad artham, mukta sangha samachara. That will liberate you. So, what is cowardliness? Not to act for the pleasure of the Lord. What is cowardliness? To act for one's selfishness. That is the idea of cowardliness. That's demoniac because you're running away from your responsibility. All right. Thank you for that good question. A hand behind with the lady. Please read section chapter 1 to 3 verses and the fourth verse. Krishna talks, Prabhupada writes in purport the deeper meaning of these words violence, non violence, compassion. Let me ask you a question. I'll come to your question. Any one of you here would like to define what is compassion? You asked me a question. Let me ask you a question now. What is compassion? Would you like to answer, Mother? If in case you have the mic, or anyone else, what is compassion? Compassion means helping others. Is that good enough? Would there be anything else? Feeding the poor, helping the poor, helping the beggars is an act of compassion. But this is subsidiary. This is not the real compassion. Because what is happening outside is all happening because their own karmic reactions. Whose karmic reactions can you change when you cannot change your own? Yes, Pradeep ji, what is compassion? हिंदी में बोलिए, माइक दे दीजिए.
यदि कोई ज्ञानी व्यक्ति किसी दूसरे व्यक्ति की सहायता कर सकता है आत्मोन्नति के लिए, उसे आध्यात्मिक ज्ञान प्रदान कर सके या उसे सद्मार्ग की ओर ले जा सके, तो वह कंपैशन कहलाएगा इन माय ओपिनियन.
Wonderful. Second chapter Bhagavad Gita, first verse, Prabhupada, उसके तात्पर्य में compassion की परिभाषा लिखते हैं. What is compassion? Compassion is not to save. Imagine there is a person drowning in an ocean. Now you can save the person or you can save the dress of a person. Who do you save? If you save the dress of a person is not the real compassion. Real compassion is actually to save the person. Similarly, this body is like a dress. And the real person is sitting within this dress, which is Atma. So real compassion has to be shown to the real person, Atma. But if your compassion is only limited to the body, anyways, it will get destroyed. Nobody, even your parents, cannot save you from destruction because it has to happen as the laws of the nature. But if your action is towards protecting his Atma, that is real compassion. And what is violence? When you inhibit or obstruct that access, where you can really offer the guidance and spiritual consciousness to Atma, that is violence. You see how it goes into deeper analysis? So Prabhupada purpose bring this beautiful insights. Yes, for the question of her.
I just want to ask that as per Gita, is there any elaboration which enable us to understand why God sent us here if there is a liberation is the ultimate goal of us? I mean, as per my understanding, liberation is we will become part of God again, right? I mean, we came out of Him and we will go back to Him. But then why all this?
Is this your first session?
Yes.
Yes. You're coming at the fag end of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna have mentioned that many times before, but you have asked this question. I'll briefly answer that. I will request you to read Bhagavad Gita at your leisure. You'll find the
I
answer, or else you can hear the recordings of previous sessions. So, mother's question is, well, everything, this is temporary, this is a place of suffering, we are part and parcel of the Lord. Mukti, liberation means is to go back home, back to Godhead. Then why did he send us here? Let me give a simple example. Is that your son sitting right next to you? As a mother, you would have an experience, maybe not with him, maybe with your own upbringing. Imagine there is a rainy season and a child becomes very haughty and stubborn that he wants to go and play in the rainy season. And as a parent, you know that if he goes and play in the first rain, generally you can fall sick. Later on, it's okay. And he goes and play, or she goes and play a football in this rain, that he would or she would fall sick. And you try to tell him, this is not good for you, you should not do it. But if the child becomes adamant, what as a parent you do? All right, go, so be it. You learn a lesson your way, next time you will not become stubborn. Yes or no? Yes?
maybe.
That's your and my situation. We were stubborn, we were wanted to come to this world, so be it. Go. Face it, experience it. Once you have experienced it, you will never ever want to come. So, like that, we are haughty and stubborn. Therefore, Krishna says, I do not interfere with anyone's free will. Arjuna said, my dear Lord, if you have already killed everyone, so why don't you do so? Krishna said, no, Arjuna, you're going to do it. This is your duty. In case of me, what I want, anyways, it would happen either with you or through anyone else. But it's your choice to become a nimitta matram. So, Lord does not interfere in anyone's free will, and it is our free will which we have misused and have chose to come here. And we are going through that whole experience of hardships here, and that is bringing us to an understanding. This is all futile, not worth it. एक बार आया हूं, दोबारा नहीं आऊंगा. दूध का जला, छाछ भी फूक फूक के पीता है. All right? Anything else? Go ahead.
Can I ask a
Yeah,
follow-up
yeah.
question? There are further questions I have, like, only God has created this world, right? So why did he created this world where he is sending people?
You're asking all those questions which have been all addressed. So keep coming, we'll address. Otherwise, you go and meet our host on the table, Shikhar and Mother Dipasha. They'll sit leisurely with you and help you with all these questions. You give her that Gita Wisdom series, 5 topics. What is that? Who is Ishvara? Who am I? Why do bad things happen to good people or good things happen to bad people? Law of karma, the creation. All that will answer all these questions. But I'm happy that you're a thoughtful person, at least wondering about these questions. Thank you for that. Okay, Prabhus and mothers, we'll pause here for today. Tomorrow.